Here are some steps that I think that we need to take a look at when we're looking to have more visibility into these different LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT. And so first and foremost, I want to talk about conversational content. You have to really think about how you want to do this. And this is something again that like we've built some tools around where we get our calls from CallRail, for example, and where allowed and the client permits, we can record those, transcribe them, and then we can extract questions from them. Because everybody is probably thinking, yeah, people are going to ask, like, who's the best personal injury lawyer near me after the car accident? And they're expecting these direct answers. But there's tons of gold mines of information in those calls that your staff are getting every day. That could be like your whole marketing for your whole, for your whole firm for a year, right? If you're just monitoring this and you have a process to do it, which is also important because if you ask people to do it and take notes and do it manually, you're not going to get the result that you're thinking of. But the point remains the same. What you need to do is you publish articles with titles to these questions, like how much compensation can I get with a broken leg in San Jose, California? So, and if you write clear answers and it's prominently featured at the front, like you're answering that question quickly. That's something we do to earn those featured snippets in Google's results. The large language models are going to like that. You know, there's only so many computers out there, right? And they have to allocate a resource to say, hey, go look at your law firm's website and go look at yours. And since there's limited resources, if your website is not easy to crawl where they can get that information quickly and access it, they're going to spend less time. Same as Google. They already do that. Number two is structured data and schema. What I would do is I would think of it as giving AI a roadmap to understand your website. It's basically just a form of like code that's like putting labels on filing cabinets in your office. And by implementing this simple like schema markup that says this is a law firm, for example, that's one type of schema. And I will talk about this in greater detail a little bit later. And these are our practice areas, and this is about our firm. You're helping AI assistants quickly understand and recommend your services because it can easily understand the way the data is laid out, the way it's structured. They can open that file cabinet and say, look, yep, this is everything we need to know. Perfect. Let's use this in an answer now. So it just makes you more visible in AI systems. So schema that we use specifically for some of this might be legal service. There's a legal service schema. And we'll send out some information after this as well, because this is the one kind of technical piece. But FAQ schema, that's telling Google, hey, look, these are questions and these are answers. And it's structured in a way that they know those are all in this filing cabinet are all questions and answers. There's a local business one, there's a person one, there's review ones, there's more. But structuring data in a way that they can understand is basically always going to give you a little bit of a leg up. And then topical authority. You know, I don't know how many times I see people basing their SEO strategies off of their competitors. And I say that because I think that you can gain insights from competitors and you should look at that. That's something. But then you find a market like, let's just say we're in Fremont, California, and now we have 20 law firms that all have the exact same pages. Oh, we're car accident lawyers, car accident lawyer in Fremont, and what to do after a settlement. And so there's no differentiation. And sure, you've now created what your competitor has, but nobody's that topical authority. You have to cover and think about all those questions that people are asking on your topic because you can really stand out. Even if it's just generating a few more, each one of these pages is just generating a few more visits or conversions a month, like that's huge and it adds up. And there's always caveats when we're talking about this in the context of search engine optimization because there's wrong ways to do things. There's easy ways and ways that aren't really going to benefit you and that can bring down the quality of your site. But like anything, if you're in this for the long run and you're creating great content, you're creating something that is a valuable resource, a guide, and you're answering that question quickly, you can really go far out on that topical expansion and become the authority in your market. And it is a lot easier if you're just focused on one market, because if you're focused on 100 different markets, you're probably duplicating those efforts in some ways as well. So, you know, that could be topics again like Texas car accident settlements, what victims need to know. And if you're doing the phone call thing or you're getting information or interviewing your staff and getting those resources and common questions your ideal clients are actually asking, you're going to have more valuable data than a lot of keyword tools because, hey, there might be some searches in here or some things that we can create that aren't getting a lot of volume. So digital marketers tend to deprioritize that, but maybe it's higher conversions. At the end of the day, everything you need to do needs to be tied to one of your SMART goals, which is typically signing cases or building your brand, you know, whatever that is. And then local directories and reviews. So you got to remember that AI is not just looking at you to find out information about your firm. Where else are they going? Well, they're going to review websites. They're going to local business directories, Chamber of Commerce websites, definitely review ones. So they're looking at your Avvo reviews. They're looking at to see if you're Martindale peer reviewed, if you have your super lawyers, etc. So AI is using that information to parse, who should I recommend from these sources. So who's the most trusted personal injury lawyer in Dallas? Okay, let's look at these 10 sources. These people are showing up the most. That's going to be our answer. All these models are doing, they're not actually like thinking. They're just collecting information from a database and they're looking for trends essentially of what's reoccurring. So and obviously with the sentiment doing that analysis side of it as well. So that's why reviews are always helpful. But it's also thinking about like, hey, what are the top review sources for your firm? And I think a lot of firms also make the mistake of saying, hey, let's only do Google. And then they leave everything kind of off to the side where they should, as a secondary, maybe that's Yelp. Maybe it's on Bing. Maybe it's on FindLaw. Maybe, wherever that is, you got to figure out what already has visibility in your market. When people search your brand name, that's a really good place to start because you want to own that. You want to own those in Google, but also, hey, if those are already getting a lot of visibility, chances of these ChatGPT and other sources scraping it are big. And then, EAT, which if you have been in SEO or talk to SEO nerds like me over the years, you may have heard that, expertise, authority, trust. See, Google has already done this for a lot of years where they have said, hey, lawyers fall into a category of your money, your life content, YMYL. And that means that this content that potential consumers look at and understand, this may affect their money or their life. So we're going to look at that a little bit closer. We're going to put our magnifying glass on and look at this with more authority. And AI systems prioritize credible sources. So you need to demonstrate your expertise, not only by maybe showing your specific expertise in content if you can, but what about case results? Or what about citing sources, just like you're doing a brief or something? If you mention that you've handled over 200 motorcycle accident cases with an average settlement of whatever, and you have the data to back that up, that's a trust signal. And I bring that up too because a problem that we have with AI that we know is it hallucinates. It makes stuff and that will get better over time. But the reality is people are writing content that they think, oh, this sounds great. And it's citing sources. So they're using ChatGPT to write this content. And then it comes out kind of sounding blank and, sounding not exciting. And it's citing sources, but those sources are fake. And that may even work for the short term for a ranking purpose. But again, you don't have longevity in mind with that because you will get spanked at some point with that type of stuff.